Hi, my name is Memory, and this is my build walkthrough for the Parcel Creatorverse Buildathon. This buildathon took place in Decentraland, which is a platform I don't know anything about and I've never built on, so I took this as an opportunity to learn more about the build process and just to see what it's all about so that I could potentially offer it to clients in the future. It was really interesting to work with the SDK and to run the CLI from command line, and it took a little bit of work, but I got the hang of it. I started with sketches, really thinking about the 4-parcel layout and how to break that cube or break that square composition. I wanted to try to do something that worked away from that. So I started out with a layout, and I wanted to put the whole building on a 45-degree axis so I could still work with it easily, but it would not be aligned to the grid. That copper line there is something I discovered during the process, which is that the sun rises and sets along that line, so it kind of creates opportunities for light play. These are the initial blocking phases I went through before settling on a design. I like iterators, I like arrays, I like booleans, and all these things you see a lot in metaverse architecture. I wanted to play with them as well. My final design is a multi-level meeting space with portals meant for people to come together and to launch off into adventures in other parts of the metaverse. Looking at this, I see a representation of the tapestry of a metaverse that might be made up of many different parts, many twisting pieces that might twist our brains. The main piece, which you can see kind of looks like a curled piece, is inspired by a Mobius strip, which you can walk on both sides of. The build in Decentraland is really interesting to walk around, I found. I love to play with some of the features that Decentraland really does well. Things like dynamic skybox, dynamic time of day. I really like the bloom and the reflections. I really like how the reflections only show the skybox, and so it created an opportunity to kind of create optical illusions by cutting out bits of the architecture using the reflections. I thought this created interesting negative space to play with. The building, as seen from afar, tries to draw you in with spinning emissive materials and an impression that there's more to be discovered on the inside. I used ambient motion and animation to draw the eye and try to invite people in. Part of my goal with this was to try to break away from the Decentraland aesthetic a little bit by creating, as I mentioned, optical illusions and getting away from blocky modeling, playing with reflections and light. In the center here is the sun corridor, which allows for the sunset and the sunrise to be seen, and kind of a maze of different walkways above that lead to the primary function of the space, which are portals. Throughout the space there are 7 portals distributed throughout the architecture, each of them not linking to Decentraland, but instead linking to another metaverse, the Monaverse. I feel like metaverses need to speak to each other. People should be traveling across the borders more often. And so I wanted to highlight some Monaverse spaces that I love. This portal is Archimisia's Celestia, and clicking on it will bring a user out of Decentraland briefly to an invite link to explore with friends. Hanging above the portals you'll find an L system, a plant system that I coded using Touch Designer, acting as a chandelier to bring the space together. All in all, I really like the render quality of Decentraland when it uses more reflections and more light play. I'm really curious to see what a building like this might look like when it's in a context, and that's one thing that really makes this a lot different than building in a platform like Mona, is that instead of having infinite space, you have just a little bit of space, and you have to build something within those limits. I think I set out to do what I wanted to do, and of course it could be so much better, but it was fun to build. The main things I wanted to achieve were figuring out animations, figuring out sound effects, seeing what kind of curvature you can get away with 40,000 polygons. And I think that while it seems low, you can still do a lot with that amount of vertices, that amount of polygons. That's it for the walkthrough. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you get a chance to explore this as well. I'm looking forward to building more with Decentraland. I think that interoperability and cross-metaverse travel, as well as avatar customization, is really going to help this world take off. I believe in the metaverse as a concept. I think that we can meet people, we can have meaningful experiences that replace real life experiences, and it's fun to participate in the conversation. Thank you.